You're the one holding your business together, but what if your business is actually holding you hostage? At Rhapsody Strategies, we help business leaders just like you stop spinning their wheels, start building real systems and strong teams and lives they actually love. High performance without the burnout. That's the game you want to play. If you're ready, go to rhapsodystrategies.com and let's get started.
Our deepest need as humans is for unconditional love. And our greatest fear is to not get that love, to be rejected. Most people in any walk of life never reach their potential. They're not doing the great things that they can. And the reason is largely feelings. I got injured and lost my career. And what I've realized since then is what I've always really wanted, but didn't know it, was to feel fully alive.
Hey, and welcome to the Living Richly podcast. My name is Rob Dale. I'm your host today. And for the first time, I'm flying kind of solo from our regular guests. Everybody else is away. And so I kind of snuck into the candy shop and figured I'm going to do a podcast without Eric, without Kate, without Wendy. And I figured I better have some help. So my guest host today is the great Steve Osmond, who has been on many of the episodes. And so, Steve, great to have you on the episode with me. Let's see how much trouble we can get in together.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so great to be here. And I am thrilled about our guest today.
Yeah, I am so excited to have Jim Murphy on the podcast. His book, Inner Excellence, I highly recommend it. We both got our copies in front of us. We've both been reading this through. Steve had actually recommended it to us. Absolutely great book. But Jim, first of all, just welcome. So appreciate the fact that you're here and part of this episode today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm honored.
So we're going to talk about the idea of how to win without losing yourself. What if the pressure you feel when the stakes are high is because your identity is on the line? What if it's because there's something going on inside of us and we haven't figured that out? We wonder sometimes. Some people just seem to thrive, whether it's in a sporting event, whether it's in a business event, wherever it might be. But when you're front and center and the spotlight's on you, some people thrive. Some people absolutely collapse during that time. And we want to talk today about how you can rise up and really determine and figure out what's going on within you in order to have that happen. Now, Jim, your book, you wrote the book. It was going along great. You were an author, kind of celebrating that. And then this crazy thing went viral when a football player in the NFL, he's caught reading the book on the sidelines. Your book becomes front and center. We don't know if, whether that was God pointing a finger or the universe saying it's time, but suddenly you went from being this author to this big stage author. But I want to ask you, what was the problem you were originally trying to figure out or solve when you wrote this book?
My dream my whole life was to be a superstar professional athlete, whether it was in the NBA or Major League Baseball or NFL. Since I was 7, 8 years old, I would tell everyone I'm going to be a pro athlete. And so when I got drafted by the Cubs, it was a dream come true. And so I played in the minor leagues for 5 years, and then I got injured and had to retire, and I was devastated. It was more than just devastation. It was a loss of my identity, loss of my life. I didn't know. I had no sense of future. It was just like, it felt like everything was over. Like the world is not right. And I just didn't know what to do next. So I ended up, I got a job with FedEx and got asked to coach a high school baseball team in inner city Seattle. I had no interest in coaching. I just never thought about it. And we went undefeated and had such a good time. And so then I thought, oh, okay, I've always thought my destiny was to be a superstar. So I thought, my destiny has always been to be a superstar major league manager, not a major league player. And so I ended up coaching with the Texas Rangers and South African Olympic team. But what happened was those were just layovers. And I thought that coaching in the with the Texas Rangers was going to lead to this super, being the World Series winning manager. And God had bigger plans for me. And at the time, I couldn't see that either, because I left, and it was a box that I couldn't fit in. But at the time, I just thought that this was another failure, just like my baseball career. And so I leave for the desert. You guys have probably done this a few times. You give away over half your possessions and move to the desert to live a life of solitude. And so I did that. And it was I always think about the first or second New Year's Eve when I'm alone in this empty house and I go outside. I hear a noise, and writing in my journal, I hear a noise and I go outside and I see fireworks. And that was the first time I realized it was December 31st. So it was a lonely time. But when I got there, I decided to become a personal coach to pro baseball players and teach them how to have peace and confidence under pressure. And my first few athletes did extraordinary. So I thought, okay, we'll put together a little manual for future clients on how to have peace and confidence under the most pressure. And so for my master's paper, my master's degree was on how to build a championship team. And I had interviewed 39 Major League Baseball managers and GMs and other coaches on how to build this team. And so I had a lot of experience interviewing. And so I thought, I'm going to call a sports psychologist and ask him, how can a pro baseball player in Game 7 of the World Series, with the game on the line, bottom of the ninth, 2 outs, bases loaded, down by 1, full count, how can that guy have peace and confidence? And similarly, how can an Olympic athlete train for 4 years for an event that may last less than a minute and have peace and confidence? And it just, I didn't get any answers that I thought were suitable. So I called another psychologist and another, and spent 5 years of full-time writing and researching that question. And that was the question I was trying to solve.
Wow, what an epic question. I'm sure that goes through everybody's mind when they're watching as observers. How do these people stay cool under pressure, and then not just stay cool, but actually deliver in that moment? And what about the idea when someone says, I'll feel confident when I win or when I'm successful, as opposed to feeling confident before? How does that work in the brain or in the professional athlete to have the confidence before success?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of similar to I'm going to do something good for the world once I, have enough money and all that sort of thing. I think it's a similar idea. And the problem is it's very transactional oriented, and there's just way too much out of your control to be able to live an extraordinary life when you're caught up in transactions. And we all get caught up in transactions, like every human, like multiple times a day. I know I experience it every day, where I just have gotten caught up in some transaction, and it starts to get a little stressful because there's so many things out of my control, and things that I want, and things that I don't want to happen and hope for, and so. It's just really need a good system to remind yourself, to pull yourself out of this temporary surface level transaction life that you're living in, and into the realities of who you are and what's possible in your life. And so, that takes a real intention to do that every day.
Yeah. I know you talk about this in the book, but society's pressure on people to win and to put their identity into that. We're recording this just as the Olympics have finished, and I'm sure both of you saw the interview. There was the one athlete. She had just won 2 silver medals, her second silver medal, and in the interview, the first reporter's question was, "How do you feel? Like, are you feeling frustrated or upset that you lost 2 gold medals?" And the folk, it wasn't that you won 2 silvers, it was that you lost 2 gold medals. And of course she responded, she laughed at the question and pointed it out for the silliness of what it was. But the pressure in society to define identity on winning is rampant, isn't it?
Yeah, the problem with there's this obsession with winning, and the reason there's this obsession with winning, especially in Western culture, is our deepest need as humans is for unconditional love, and our greatest fear is to not get that love, to be rejected. And so, how am I going to get that love? Well, in the book, I talk about these 5 things: your possessions, achievements, looks, money, and status. if I can get those things kind of sorted out really good, or at least a couple of them really good, then I'm going to get the love. This is not a conscious thought, but it's really in the back of the mind. It's always, then I'll be somebody, then I'll be okay, then I can compare well, then I can walk into a dinner party and I can feel good about myself. But until I get those results and circumstances really good, then, I got to be careful. As humans, we're always walking around in comparison. Like, you walk into a room of strangers. Okay, how do I compare to them? What are they going to be thinking about me, and how should I think about them? And this is because we're created for relationship, and our deepest need is for love. And so, it's such an integral part of our lives. It's in our DNA. This deep, deep need for love. Our greatest need is for unconditional love. It's our greatest need, our greatest desire, and our greatest power, because love is fearless. And so I have a book coming out next month, being re-released, called The Best Possible Life: How to Live with Deep Contentment, Joy, and Confidence. And in there's a quote by lead singer of the Talking Heads, and he says, if you were to take an ant out of a colony and said, this ant did that thing on its own, he just kind of decided to do that. It's like, no, he did not. He is doing this as part of this big group. They're all in this group together, and everything is relation to every other ant around him. And that's how humans are. There's another quote in the book that says, from a psychologist, it says, I'm not who I think I am. I'm not who you think I am. I am who you think I am. I am who I think you think I am. Sorry.
Right.
And so, in other words, what I explain this in the book is that, the way a human lives their life, and I've lived most of my life, is I think when I run into somebody, I think, who do they think I am? And I don't know if it's going to be good enough. And so they probably don't think who I am is something that great. So I need to be someone that they're going to think is someone that's good enough. And so I'm constantly thinking, who do I think they are? And so I can be that person. Who do they think I am? So I can be that person that's good enough.
In my personal journaling, I wrote out some intentions at the beginning of the year. It was right when I was reading your book as well. And one of them is connection over judgment, curiosity, daily curiosity, and there's I don't know if this is an exact quote from the book, but you talk a bit about this around and I've shared it with clients, my business clients, and in so many different contexts. You cannot hold both curiosity and judgment at the same time. And that that notion of comparing yourself, if you're judging, you can't be curious in that moment. And I think that's it's a powerful thing to start to look at each situation and ask those questions, and to be able to follow up that way.
That's a powerful one. It reminds me of the idea that you can't be anxious and grateful at the same time either. Anxiety is a mind with too many thoughts and too many concerns, and gratitude is a heart that sees the truth of what's going on in your life right now. And so, it's powerful. Thank you for that.
The very first phrase that jumped out to me were the combination of those three words: love, wisdom, courage. And it seemed like you sort of teased it at the beginning of the book, and then as we went through the book, that blew up as the big theme, the big three. And I was actually in a difficult moment with a client, not sure how to handle a particular situation, and lead with your heart. That phrase, lead with your heart, just helped me know wisdom, the next thing to do with that client. And then I just needed the courage to take that step. And it changed the whole conversation. It changed the whole situation. And I thought, this really works. I knew it kind of here, but that phrasing really put me into this place of lead with your heart, then you'll know what to do, and then have the courage to go do it. How did you come up with that sequence? Did that come from a time of reflection? Was it a more natural outflow of your thinking?
Yeah, good question. So the book, like I shared earlier, 5 years of full-time writing and research, and Rob and Steve, you guys would have finished in 2 years for sure. But I had a lot of fear, and when you're writing a book, it's kind of a cool thing in Western culture. Oh, you're a full-time writer. But when the book gets close to publication, or when it gets published, then I'm like, oh, how's it doing? They're not thinking you're so cool about being a writer. Now they're asking, how many books have you sold? And so that was my fear. So then, but through the research, what happened was I first realized that the book initially was just for professional athletes, how to have the most peace and confidence under the most pressure. This was the goal, to write the best book ever written on mental toughness. And then in the research, I realized that if you want to have the most mental toughness in any situation, then you're going to need to train your heart. And this was a big concept for me. I was like, what in the world? And when I say heart, I mean your spirit or your will. I think of those three words interchangeably. And so that's one of the unique things about inner excellence, is that in sports psychology, which is great and which I use, it focuses on the mind and just the mind. It doesn't get into the part that's the powerhouse, which is your heart and your subconscious mind. That's, if you really want to help yourself or anyone, you have to get deeper than your thoughts. You have to go to your greatest fears and your greatest dreams. And so training the heart is the most important thing you'll ever do. And it's also understanding that your heart is naturally self-centered. We're born with a divided heart. Part of us is this heart that's created in God's image. And then we have the part of us that's human, that's self-centered. And self-centeredness is our biggest challenge. Self-centeredness leads to constantly thinking about yourself, your subconscious mind, which is there to protect you. It knows all your weaknesses and fears and all your mistakes. And so it's when you think about yourself, you're going to feel vulnerable. And so you're going to want to feel better. So you compare yourself to others. And then there's always someone that has more better things than you. And so then it leads towards fear. And so training your heart is crucial. And leading with your heart is really powerful. But we want to make sure that we understand one thing, is that the heart is naturally self-centered. And that's going to lead towards fear. And so one of the mistakes that people make, and I write about this a lot in The Best Possible Life, is that the idea of following your heart, is often confused with following your feelings. And so the problem with that is sometimes you're going to feel 100% that I need to eat an extra piece of chocolate cake, which sometimes is true. But if you constantly follow your feelings, then you're going to eat too much cake and you're going to max out your credit cards. And you might take drugs if you feel like sometimes I need this right now. But the truth is, the best possible life has one foot in joy and one foot in suffering. And personally, I prefer one foot in joy and one foot in joy. I've never appreciated the suffering part. But that's how the universe is. That's the world that we live in. If you want to build stronger muscles, you have to break the muscles down. There's no other way. And if you want to gain wisdom, you have to go through difficult things. If you run from it, you're not going to gain the wisdom. And if you want to live the best possible life, you need all three: love, wisdom, and courage.
Would appreciate. I'm on day 3 of a fast, so no more food references. I appreciate that very much.
Here we go. Hard thing.
Yeah, exactly. We've been fortunate with in having a number of such fascinating guests like yourself, a number of authors that have been on the podcast, as well as our therapist, our counselor, our coach, Dr. Sherry Kane, who happens to be the sports psychologist for the Philadelphia Eagles and has done work with them for a number of years.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. So she's a wonderful friend of ours. And like I say, we've had her on the podcast a number of times.
He was showing his Eagle jersey there.
I know, I'm ignoring it. I'm a Cowboys fan. So
and I'm a Cowboys fan too.
Yeah. Sherry and I trash talk each other all the time. Trust me. And I should connect it to the two of you together. But one of the things, Sherry is very much, she's trained in CBT, cognitive behavior therapy, and really does emphasize the notion of we've never had a feeling we didn't create. And so when we lean in on our feelings are just thoughts and beliefs. They're the expression of those. And so change your thought, change your belief, you'll change your feelings are not what guides you. It's those other things. And you talk so much about that in the book, that's where excellence comes out of. That inner excellence is when you not remove, your feelings are there. They're neither good or bad. They just are, but you remove them as being the defining, a piece of the puzzle for how we behave and how we act. That be accurate?
Rob, here's how I think about feelings. Most people in any walk of life never reach their potential. They're not doing the great things that they can. And the reason is largely feelings. And here's how it works. Or you can think about it this way. Most people never reach their potential because they come to the edge of their beliefs about who they are and what's possible. Meaning they come to the edge of their feelings. They're too uncomfortable. They get to some situation, say an athlete is put into a situation where they've never been in. It's a really big, like they're center court at Wimbledon and never done that before. And they're too uncomfortable. It's so scary because they're attached to the result. And if I fail, I'm gonna be a loser. And I'm gonna lose out on what I need most, which is love. And so you get too afraid of that situation, that moment, and so they back away. And so what happens a lot of times is that they don't back away physically, they back away mentally, emotionally, and then they perform terribly. Or they just back away and say, I quit, I can't do this. And so the same thing happens in regular life with the rest of us, whether it's a talk or anything from a big group that you haven't done before or anything, it's the feeling is too much for the moment. And so they back away. But if you want to live an extraordinary life, there's 3 pillars of inner excellence: belief, freedom, and focus. And so I think for an extraordinary life and extraordinary performance, these are kind of the 3 key areas to believe that you can do extraordinary things, that all things are possible, and to have the freedom to play like a kid, to be curious, and to be able to be fully present, fully engaged in the moment, heart, mind, and body, unattached to what you're trying to do. And so inner excellence is about constantly expanding what you believe is possible. And that's too scary for most people. But I can share with you how to do that if you want.
Yes, please. Yeah, let's hear it.
So I'll give you an example of a pro baseball player who had a mental block recently. And it was a pro baseball catcher, and the mental block was throwing the ball back to the pitcher. And so the baseball player is carrying a baseball with him everywhere and thinking about arm angles and just like, I got to do it like this way. And just way overthinking, overanalyzing and stressing out about it. And, oh, I really hope it doesn't happen tomorrow. I'm afraid of the game. And what if I get out there and I can't do it? And obviously the pro baseball player doesn't need any more instruction on how to throw a baseball. I mean, he could do that since he was 5 years old. The problem is his overanalysis and the fear of the feeling. And so what we did was, and this was kind of, I started thinking about this a lot with Conor McGregor, the mixed martial artist. When he first became a pro, he would get into the ring and realize he was like so nervous. And it's like, oh my gosh, what are these feelings? I'm not used to these feelings. And so he used to go look for the feelings. And so that's what we did. I said, well, first of all, the feeling that you're afraid of out there, this is your teacher and your helper. This is not your adversary. This is not the opponent. This is part of your team. This is going to be crucial for you. And so we're going to go look for the feeling and we're going to embrace it. And this is kind of what happens with panic attacks. People that have had panic attacks, there's the fear of that feeling coming on. What if some situation happens or some person says something and this feeling starts to come on and I can't stop it? And so they're really, really hoping that they never get the feeling and so they never get that circumstance that could happen. And so that's very scary because that circumstance or someone could say something at any time. But if you're willing to face any feeling, which is one of the questions I had them ask 5 questions. And I said, we're going to go look for that feeling every day. That's going to be your teacher and your helper. And you're going to ask yourself these 5 questions. 1, am I willing to face my fears? 2, am I willing to fail? 3, am I willing to look foolish? And 4, and this is a big one, am I willing to have and face any feeling? And then finally, am I willing to have and face any feeling and sit with it, even if it never goes away? And then when you get out there, you can use some tools. So you're going to visualize this, ask yourself, say you have a big talk coming up or some big presentation and you're really nervous, really afraid. And so what I would tell you is that those nerves are going to come and that's important and helpful. because it's your helper and your teacher. But you're going to ask yourself these 5 questions, and you can use some other tools, inner excellence tools. A tool is something you do in the moment when you're nervous or not present or afraid. Like with the pro baseball players, we had a mantra. One of the tools was a mantra that they would use, like I'm the best catcher in Major League Baseball or something, or humming or singing out loud. There's many tools, and so, but the willingness to face any feeling is such a big one. Because if you're willing to face any feeling, now you've got freedom. And beliefs are feelings.
Wow, that is so powerful. And I love the idea of freedom being attached to this idea of childlikeness or playfulness. Often the work that we do with our clients, we dig and find out what their personal core values are. And one of mine is playfulness, with the mantra that says, if I keep playing, I'll keep winning. And so when things get heavy and burdensome and all those feelings come, I say it out loud. Steve, keep playing. If you keep playing, you'll keep winning. But so oftentimes there's a battle between fear and love, or fear and playfulness, or fear and freedom. And it seems sometimes that fear works. Like it does fuel you. It kickstarts you. I remember writing in my journal a long time ago, Steve, don't retire poor. And it was this fear of retirement without any money. And it did move me, but it certainly didn't feel very good on the inside. How do you compare the fear motivation and love motivation, or freedom motivation?
I think it's important to understand, like what I said earlier, is the very beginning. What is the source of both of these? And they're both the same source. The fear of not being enough, not being loved, and being rejected, and the great desire to be enough, to be loved. And so our greatest desire, the greatest thing, would be to be fully known and fully loved. Because if you're fully known and still fully unconditionally loved, then, it doesn't matter. Hopefully this is what would happen with a spouse, is that they know you fully, and you can never 100% know somebody. But if you were to feel like you're fully known and fully loved, then there's this total freedom. And so fear, like you said, is a very powerful energy. Fear is like fire. It's really powerful. It can push you to propel you to work really, really hard. And it's pushed a lot of people to be very tangibly successful because they're afraid of failure. But there's a basketball player named Kobe Bryant, and he was asked, what motivates you? Is it the hate to lose or love to win? Which one are you? And he said, I'm neither. I play to learn. And that's what inner excellence is. You don't, like, you mentioned that don't retire poor. Like, we all have our goals and hopes and dreams. Like every human, essentially, human nature is, I want a comfortable life. And so I want an easy life. Like, that's the daily challenge, is on an easy life. But if the best possible life is one foot in joy and one foot in suffering, and you keep going for an easy life, which is I've done way too often, now the problem is you're going to suffer more because you haven't been doing the hard things it takes to have a great life. And I have these goals and dreams that I have, and I have these fears that I have, like we all do. But the truth is, I don't know what's best for me result wise. I mean, is it best to retire with no money? Well, that could be the very best thing for me, where I'm going to serve the world in a much more powerful way. The truth is, the things that you fear most could be the best things for you. The things you want most could be the worst for you.
What a powerful way to see it. It reminds me, so another guest that we've had on a number of times is an author by the name of Dr. Kelly Flanagan. And he's written a number of books, like yours, has a spiritual kind of aspect or element to it. His most well-known book is a book called Lovable. And in the book Lovable, he talks about the idea that in most in most cases, we get it all wrong. We look at the results or what we do as the most important thing, and then we find our worth in what we do, or what the results that we get. And he says we've got to switch that around. The first thing you need to do is figure out the worthiness. He talks about it's worthy. You love yourself. You find value in yourself. You become that raving fanatic of you, and become at peace with that. And then out of that, you find your community. And then from your community, you find your action, your calling, your doing, your results. And that kind of ties in a little bit of what you're saying there, is how I'm hearing it as I'm listening is we so focus on the results, and we've forgotten that the real work is focusing on who we are. And then who we are and how that shows up is going to determine the results, whether it's to be incredibly wealthy, whether it's to be poor, whatever that is, that you get to serve the community you have once you've figured out the identity. And so much of your book is about identity, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. And developing self-awareness is crucial. It's a lifelong journey. And it's an interesting thing, the part about loving self. Because like I shared earlier, self-centeredness is our greatest challenge, I believe. Leads to fear. And the Bible says, love your neighbor as yourself. And so I think there's an aspect of loving yourself that is powerful. But it's very problematic. Because, well, what does it mean to love myself? It can easily mean to put myself first. And this is human nature. And you have to put yourself first in some situations just to survive. You have to think about crossing the street, looking both ways, and feeding yourself and your family. And so it becomes very problematic. And I don't think about loving myself. In fact, I have a phrase that I think about a lot. It's called "selfless is fearless," because when you're at your very best, there's no concern for self. There's no thoughts of self whatsoever. And when you're in that zone where you're feeling fully alive, again, there's no thoughts of self. And imagine you're seeing the most beautiful piece of art, or reading the best book in the world, or the best movie. Are you thinking about yourself? It's like the self blends into the moment. And I think what's more powerful is gratitude for the creator of who you are, and to say that I'm a child of God. And that's the powerful thing. Because if we try and love ourselves, now we run into, well, I've done a lot of bad things. I made a lot of mistakes. I'm inherently self-centered. So I'm going to try and love someone who's self-centered, and so now it's this, well, it's really hard to do. But if we say, I'm going to be grateful for being created in God's image, and have that as my identity, not my, because when we think about self, I'm going to love myself. What happens as humans, we think, well, who am I? I'm the person who's done all these things and has all these things. And this is my job. This is these are my possessions, and this is my past, and that's who I am. And that's going to be really hard to love. But then, okay, what if I have a lot of successful past and successful possessions? Okay, then I can love that person. But now we've got a false sense of self. And so it becomes problematic, this love of self.
There's two words that jumped out on the same page in your book, two 3-letter words. I know we often talk about 4-letter words, but two 3-letter words. The word Zoe, Z-O-E, and in Canada we say Z. I don't know if you know that, Z-O-E.
Oh, I speak Canadian.
Good.
Yeah.
And then the other word is the 3-letter word ego. So you have Zoe and ego, and how ego can be the enemy of Zoe, or somehow be an obstacle. Can you just tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. So Zoe is a Greek word for life, absolute fullness of life. And so when I was writing the book, doing the research, I asked a gal from my church, I said, Jennifer, can you take a look at the manuscript for Inner Excellence? And and make sure that it lines up with the Bible. I want to make sure this book is filled with truth and nothing is false. And so she reads Inner Excellence. She said, Jim, I read the book. Have you ever heard of the word Zoe? And I said, no. And she said, it's a Greek word, means fullness of life, to feel fully alive, vibrant, and filled with love and joy. And she said, I think that's what your book is about. And I said, yes, that's exactly what my book is about. I've always obsessed about being a superstar. I wanted to be the guy that every guy wanted to be, and the guy that every girl wanted to be with, and make millions of dollars and be on the cover of magazines. And that's what I thought was the best possible life, and that's what I'm going to live. And that did not happen. I got injured and lost my career. And what I've realized since then is what I've always really wanted, but didn't know it, was to feel fully alive. And so now we have the human nature part of us, the ego, the part that I define as part of our mind that's always threatened, always comparing, and never satisfied. The part that we all have. And it says, Steve, Rob, if you get enough success, if you have enough possessions or achievements or whatever, then you're going to be enough. You're going to be somebody. You're going to get what you want most, that love, that peace, that joy. And so we all have this part of our mind. So that's why I think of Inner Excellence as mastering the ego. And mastering the ego, I think of being unembarrassable, unoffendable, and unirritatable. It's a lifelong pursuit.
Talk about freedom, right? And of course, you spend a bit of time really emphasizing that notion of freedom. I just finished reading the book for the second time, The Courage to be Disliked. And it's written by a couple of Japanese a philosopher, psychologist, and is just absolutely, like, millions of copies of this book have been sold. It's translated from Japanese into English, and it's a really interesting book. And this notion, though, that it's in the courage to recognize who you are, to be willing to be disliked because you're not worried about the judgment or the way others identify or describe you. And you're willing to look at it here and with the creator, with God, with the universe, however you want to identify that. And we've got people from all kinds of, different spiritual backgrounds. We believe that there is a spiritual element to what Living Richly is all about. But the more you're willing to embrace and have the courage to identify and recognize the true you, your freedom. There's freedom in that. Talk a little bit about how you tie in mental toughness or strength to freedom, and how people now live that out.
Yeah, I think freedom is one of the greatest things that's lacking in today's world, because there's this great fear of failure, and which is, that's where courage comes in. And in one sense, I think of courage as the willingness to face any feeling. And I think courage is the biggest differentiator between people that are super successful and people that are not. People that are super successful, they're willing to fail, willing to look foolish, willing to try things. And I think one of the big differences, the people that are super successful in any field, they're also afraid. It's just that they're not afraid to be afraid. And now we're getting back to the feelings. Are you willing to look foolish, or are you willing to fail? Are you willing to have any feeling? Because if you're willing to do that, I'll give you an example. I have a golfer who had this fear of chunking a chip, and if you don't golf, it's just miss hitting a ball, and it can look embarrassing because it may make you look foolish. And so he said he was having getting really nervous over the chips because he was getting this mental block. And the mental blocks are created through past experiences where your subconscious felt either embarrassed or traumatized or something. And you're not going to get a mental block over something that's really hard to do. Like a NFL kicker is not going to get a mental block too often on a 55-yard field goal, but an extra point they might. A golfer is not likely to get a mental block over a 40-foot putt. But over a 3-foot putt, they may, because it's that fear of looking foolish. And so the willingness to look foolish is so crucial. The willingness to fail and the willingness to have any feelings, so important. And the, the the possibility of expanding what you believe is possible.
I love the emphasis in the book that you put on serving, and how serving can be. I mean, in so many people, serving means weakness. It means always finishing last. There's some kind of a negative connotation, and so people rather would say, "I'm going to prove myself." Where do you see the advantage? Can you win? Can you still win and serve, or do you need to
Yeah.
assert yourself and prove yourself and drive for dominance? How do you see serving and success matched together?
Well, I think of surrender as the most powerful thing that one could ever do. You look at um, AA; it's changed millions and millions of lives around the world, and it's predominantly about surrendering. I mean, that's a huge part of it is surrender your life and admit that you're incapable of um, living the best possible life. And this is true. We're far too self-centered and weak to achieve our potential on our own. If you want to live an extraordinary life, you have to have a purpose beyond yourself, or otherwise your life's going to be self-centered. And the purpose beyond your life is about serving. And so surrender is the greatest, most powerful thing you can do. It's just like, surrendering your keys when you've been drinking. It's the wisest, most important thing that you could do. It's the same thing as surrendering your little power, my little weakness, knowledge and wisdom and whatever little strength that I have, surrendering it to the creator of the universe. And even if you didn't believe in God, pretty much everyone understands that there's a power out there that grows the grass and spins the earth and holds the stars in place that's far more powerful than you. And if you can align with that power, now you've got freedom, you've got sky's the limit. But it's getting out of your own way. It's letting go of the grasping that you have of your life that I've had most of my life, and surrendering it like a sunflower to the sun, surrendering your little lollipop for the whole candy store.
I feel it and I hear it and I see it in your body as you're even sharing that. And that can be so contagious for sure. This has been so wonderful. It's been great to be able to just hear a little bit of you and your story behind the book. We're going to be putting into the show links, the show notes, all of the links to how they can find you, how they can get the book. But just take a few minutes. You've mentioned it, that you're re-releasing one of your books. Just give us a little bit of a highlight version of what this book is about, so that people may want to go out there and grab it as well.
Possible Life is it's called The Best Possible Life: How to Live with Deep Contentment, Joy, and Confidence No Matter What. Inner Excellence was over 300 pages. This one is less than half the thickness. It's oriented towards a 7th grade reading level. It turned out to be it's a book on the spiritual life. It's really about the source of inner excellence. So inner excellence is train your mind for extraordinary performance in the best possible life, and the key is the best possible life. And that's what. So this Best Possible Life book is like a summary of inner excellence, and there's some things in there that I've never shared with the world, like the 3 worlds model, which I share with every professional athlete that I use. I've never written about it anywhere. It's in this book. The Best Possible Life gets released March 31st in bookstores everywhere. One other thing is that I was going to share is that I don't think about winning. Winning is not a word that I use with my professional athletes or Olympic athletes or myself, because winning and losing are so similar. Like the thing is, you could win, you could be a tennis champion and win Wimbledon, and that could be the worst thing that ever happens to you.
Yeah.
And you could get last place. It could be the best thing that ever happens to you. And so, I don't use that word. I want to learn, and I want to develop self-awareness about what's possible and who I can be and how I can make a difference in the lives of people that I meet.
Oh, I think that's an absolute perfect way to land this plane. I think it's just that absolutely to change the vocabulary around winning, losing, and focusing more on learning. Jim, thank you so much. So appreciate your time and your willingness to come on and just have this conversation with us. I know that it's going to be so enriching for many of our listeners, and I really hope that we can have you back on again at a future date.
That'd be great. Thanks so much for having me, you guys.
Awesome. Thank you. And thank you to my co-host, Steve, for stepping in and helping out here today. And I really do appreciate. And thank you to every single one of you that have tuned in. You've been watching this on YouTube or listening to it on your favorite audio podcast. I want to just encourage you, if you believe excellence shouldn't cost you your peace, then this is a conversation worth sharing out. So like it, share it, subscribe to the show as well. And don't forget, visit livingrichley.me to find out how you can join the Living Richly Nation Facebook group and get some member-only deep conversation type content that we do there. And if you're a business owner, this is so relevant to you and how you run your business. Our podcast is sponsored by Rhapsody Strategies. Check out their website as well and find out more about how we might be able to support you in your business and in coaching and all of that. So until next time, get out there and live your best life.